Welcome to the name game. Workout number 133 is Hinge Party. As many rounds as possible in 15 minutes, 12/9 calorie row, 6 kettlebell snatches with each arm, 53 for males, 35 for females, and 12 GHD sit-ups. Additionally, every third minute, including the start of the workout, athletes must perform 3 D-ball over the shoulder, 150 pounds for males, 100 for females.
Exercise.
Okay, so we start with sandbag over the shoulder. So if you have a sandbag or a D-ball, whatever you have, we'll use 3 of them. Is the reason you picked over the shoulder versus cleans? You programmed this, by the way. I should have said that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are used to cleans, so I kind of want to just do something a little different over the shoulder. Just get used to that. I also personally like it a lot, so I kind of wanted to put that in.
If you get to pick, why not, right?
Yeah.
I forget when I saw those for the first time and when I actually started doing them, but I'd like the first probably 6 months that I did those, it was always over the shoulder. And then it wasn't like till later that they started like programming way more cleans, like actually to the shoulder.
Yeah.
Because like the standard is way easier, I think, if it's over the shoulder, because it's like you just throw it over the shoulder. If you get it over the shoulder, you're good. Is there any like? I guess the only thing that you can kind of do is like you can kind of like bend underneath it as it goes over, like almost like do like a mini squat as it goes over your shoulder. But
yeah,
is there any other standards like in terms of like you have to keep your knees locked out or anything weird like that when you do the over the shoulder?
No, I don't think there are that, at least I'm aware of. I do like it though, because you get to kind of like use a little bit of momentum to just kind of like throw it over, right? It's a little bit more just like strongman like work versus like technicality.
Yeah, and it's like the technique is a little bit different because you like almost like rolled up your body more because then it rolls over your shoulder versus like. For me, like when it's more of a clean, it's like I create a little bit of separation in between my body so it doesn't like roll. So it's like, and then you kind of like dip underneath it in the last second for like a clean. So I think they are a little bit different. So you're doing those every 3 minutes. So you got a little bit longer yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of a pace did you start off on the rower?
The goal was to be around like 920 to 950 calories per hour. That was something sustainable. Didn't like wear me out. And from there, like towards the end, I kind of sped it up a little bit more to go more into like thousands. But I kept that pace for most of it.
Do you have like any time trial data, like in terms of like do you know what your average pace is for like a 2K or 5K or anything along those lines?
I do, yeah. So 2K, I like to keep it like, I think my best time, which was a few months ago, was 158.
As an average
per 500. Yeah. So for me,
158
that's pretty good.
It'd probably be like, I don't know, 1025, 1050 calories an hour, somewhere in that range. So
yeah,
a little bit slower than 2K, I think definitely makes sense for most people.
Yeah. Another thing too, like one thing I based off of knowing that, like, for me, I think the D balls or sandbags, whatever you use, over the shoulders was like the most fatiguing. Trying to do 3 fast. So knowing that, I tried to keep like a conservative pace on the rower. Didn't want to, knowing me too, like I'm really good at burning myself out when it comes to any type of monostructural equipment. So kind of kept it conservative there, at least in the first few rounds.
Yeah. I feel like the kettlebell snatch, with it not being like, crazy heavy and it being single arm, it's much like a dumbbell snatch where it's like, yes, it's taxing, but it's like you kind of have this like one methodical pace that you go about it. And I feel like it's the same thing with like a GHD. Like, okay, yeah, you could speed this up a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, in a 15-minute workout, like you're probably not going to. So it's like, then it's almost like your pace comes down to like your row.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think the good thing about that is like you can kind of take have a baseline sort of row to start off at it, like kind of like you said, and then hopefully it's something where it's just slightly conservative, where you can pick it up a little bit, ideally in like the second half of the workout.
Right.
How long have you been in CrossFit at this point?
It's been, I think it's going to be my 3-year anniversary.
I was going to say, I was going to guess 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sweet. It's been pretty cool to watch all like your movements get like way more refined. Like obviously like you had the strength conditioning background, but that's like so different than like learning how to do like a Metcon where like all the movements are mixed together in like these different ways and stuff. So it's just like, yeah, it's been cool to watch your progression for sure.
It is super interesting too. Like I know just in the strength and conditioning background, like so many things are looked at differently. It boils down to the same principles, but like things are looked at differently where like a lot of these movements aren't being done like over the shoulder, the kettlebell snatches, GHD sit-ups, like at working at the university, like you don't see any of those things being done like at all, like with any of the athletes. It's very much like there's like staple movements and all those things like, and so this is definitely like not something that if you talk to a strength coach at the collegiate or professional level, it's not something they're familiar with or used to.
Yeah, not at all. And it's also like different when it's like you're racing whatever it is. Like you're basically trying to make all the movements like as easy as possible versus like in like strength conditioning, you're trying to get like your best stimulus so that like you improve whatever like the sport is. Whereas like this is the sport, so like you're trying to optimize for these movements. So it's like, you might do like a dumbbell snatch, like we were talking about this on the podcast. So it's like you might teach a triathlete how to do a dumbbell snatch, but you're not really trying to like have them gamify a dumbbell snatch to get as efficient as they can. And like alternating hands in the air and like doing all that stuff and like trying to like cycle it quickly. Like you're just trying to like have some general like qualities that you're trying to attack. So it's very different when you're like the exercise is the sport that you're doing.
Yeah.
What are you listening to right now when you're working out? What's your go-to playlist?
Well, I think I had Drake radio on when I was playing this. It was some hip hop that was on. I think it was Drake.
These are the important questions that we need to know. Drake,
and
that's your workout strategy.
Yeah. The like main reason I did that was because I knew I was gonna be filming this, and I was like, well, I can't be putting on like Adele or anything. I gotta make it just in case someone listens to the music in the background.
That would have been so entertaining if you're listening to Adele, just like sobbing on the rower.
Wet in tears, you know?
Yeah.
And I think this is in the point of the workout where like I started focusing more on like stronger pulls to kind of increase the pace, just because I knew like I passed the halfway point. I don't feel like super fatigued. I felt pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
and these chunks of the movements are very manageable. And it's like, yes, like the D-ball or the sandbag is going to be fatiguing, but it's like at the end of the day, it is 3 reps. So it's like it's almost like heavy power clean or something along those lines, where it's like if you can almost drop and reset and like take a breath or two and then go again. It's like everyone sort of has that like threshold where it's like, this is where I'm at, where I feel like I can be, you know, say it's like a 225 bar and for like a strong guy. It's like, okay, you should be able to hit that for a rep, drop, take a few breaths, do it again. And like, you should be able to basically do that on repeat and have it be sort of like cyclical in that sense. And I feel like it's a similar thing with these sandbag cleans. And I think we're only going to see more and more of like the sandbag stuff, because it's just like, it's not a very expensive piece of equipment. It's easy to standardize. It's like you just throw it on a scale and like, that's it.
Yeah.
So I think we're only going to see more and more of these. So it's important that people kind of can get into that rhythm of when they're doing these. you ever experimented with like not locking your hands when you lap it?
I have the problem with me is like my short arms.
Yeah.
Like I like to feel that security of locking it. And I'll sometimes like even do the whole clasping thing. Because a lot of
Yep.
times when I don't like get my arms fully in there, I feel like I lose it. So just for like that security, so I could like wiggle up and stand out before I throw it up.
Yeah. It's definitely so like I feel like if you can it's like a great technique if it's like a very manageable sandbag for you, like whatever weight that is.
Yeah.
Which obviously is going to be different for different people. But if you can get in the habit, if it is a lighter bag, it's a lot quicker. But then at a certain point, like you said, well, it's either going to be two things. Either it's going to be like heavy enough where like you have to lock, or it's going to be so big because it's that heavy that you can't lock anyway, and you're forced to like bear hug it. But that's definitely like one more thing that like it taxes your grip if you actually. It would seem like it'd be the opposite, where it taxes your grip more if you were able to lock, but not being able to lock, you're basically just like squeezing with like your wrist flexors, like doing a false grip, basically, like that kind of motion. And that can actually be really tiring.
Yeah, and I know with this workout, like I knew it was a lot of hinging and like low back, so I'm like, all right. And I didn't feel it when I was doing it. Like I felt fine. It was not until the day after, like my low back was super tight.
And you could probably make your kettlebell snatches like a little bit less like a kettlebell swing and like more of like a hang position with like a light barbell where you kind of almost like bounce it, like kind of like that idea where you stay more upright with your torso, which is, to be honest, I've seen people do that and I'm like, ooh, I should probably practice that, because if it is something that's a little bit lighter, you can get away with it, but I haven't really played with that much. So, but this might be a good opportunity for me to do that.
Yeah. And like we were talking about before, like it's an AMRAP a lot of times, like it's as hard as you make it, depending on your pace and all that. So you see, like I'm not moving fast. I'm not going at 100% here. So testing out something like that would have been a good time to do it.
Yeah, and that's what kind of what this is for too, right? Like at the end of the day, like we say we're competing all the time in the name game, which is true. Like you're trying to be at your best, but like there are times where it's like you just want to experiment with things sometimes and like see if it goes well or not, because at the end of the day, it is training. Like sometimes I feel like people get really hung up on like, oh, like it has to be this way, or like they get really upset if they like fail, like they go slower in a workout in their training because they like try this like new pinch with their feet on like a rope climb or something, and it's like that's what training's for.
Yeah, right. Now you know.
Yeah. But your kettlebell snatches look super smooth. And they're not super swingy. It's sort of like a hybrid, which is probably like best for like a workout like this where it is super hinge heavy already. And then, but then you're also like have pretty high general fatigue because it is a long workout. Does your back ever get you in those GHDs? Like, does it bother you at all?
No, they usually feel pretty good.
Yeah.
They feel pretty good on those.
Yeah, you do a good job keeping tension. Like you don't crash out of the, like a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I've definitely seen like quite a bit of people who, it tends to be like, I'm trying not to just come out and say it, but I will. It tends to be like more female athletes who like tend to be a little bit lower tension. They'll start learning themselves and then they'll almost like drop. It's almost like what people do in like a squat where they like get most of the way down and then they like lose tension and like drop that last like 4 inches and like ride the bounce out. They do that same thing with the GHD, which isn't necessarily inherently bad, but they tend to, those are the types of people who tend to get in issues when they like low back pain for GHDs, I found at least. So that doesn't like the typical like masters athlete who's dealing with like GHD back pain is not the same as like the teen. It's a little bit different because they're not able to bend at all. And the teen just like bending in half.
Yeah.
But issues with tension, I guess. So what, was it just like the row here at the end that was the toughest thing? Or what was the most challenging aspect of it?
Yeah, I would say just once I started like, if this were like 5 minutes longer, I'd feel like I would feel it a lot more because that's when I started picking up the pace for the rower.
Yeah.
But because I kept it conservative for a bit, about like half of the workout, like I feel like I had enough energy and I felt good throughout. Like I wasn't dying at the end, but I started feeling it towards the end. So I remember like when I was kneeling there, I was like, if I pushed it earlier, this would have hurt a lot more. But it was definitely, I would say, the rower that was the hardest. Kettlebell snatches were kind of just like the annoying thing that's in between everything, but it wasn't bad. GHDs were decent.
Alrighty, folks, it's that time. Be sure to submit your scores to the leaderboard at zorfitness.com/TNG. You're more than welcome to share this and take it on with some friends, and best of luck on the workout.